Stay there, Willow. Be a good boy. Good boy, Willow. Hello, it's Sharky from Sharkstar, and this is day 2 recording my album. Hopefully you didn't get too bored watching the first video. A friend of mine on Twitter, Red Ruby, said I should make it a little bit shorter and a little less boring. So what I'm going to try and do today is cover something that I don't see a lot of on YouTube, and that's strings, arranging, and the right tools, the right plugins, and how to use them. So, still working on this same song, Breathe Out. And in the middle 8, there's a big string section I've been working on. It comprises of cellos and violas and violins. So, I just wanted to walk you through the process of how I arrange them and how I use the plugins. Strings are quite a difficult thing to get right. You need the right control surface, because there's lots of different parameters you have to change all at the same time to adjust expression and modulation and vibrato and things like that. So you do need your own little control surface. So I'll take you through that. I'll also explain how to pan all the different instruments as well. You don't have to do it that way, but if you want to sound like an orchestra, the best way is to pan them correctly, sit them in the right stereo field, and then they'll sound correct. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So the first thing I want to cover is libraries, string libraries and orchestral libraries. These plugins are not cheap, but the problem is, if you want convincing orchestras and string arrangements, you really can't scrimp on these. They're probably one of the biggest investments I think I've made, apart from all of my Universal Audio plugins. These orchestral libraries are, they're quite expensive. So my library of choice for this song, I'm using Spitfire Audio's BBC Symphony Orchestra, and all of the samples were recorded by the orchestra in one room at the Maida Vale studio. So you get this kind of unity. It sounds like when you put all these instruments together that they should be together. And that's because they were all recorded in the same place at the same time, and it really makes a difference. And you have all these different techniques that you can change with key switching, and the realism of these samples is just incredible. So if I just play you the middle 8 for this song, Breathing Out, I'll just play the piano and the strings, and you can hear what I'm talking about, and then I'll break it down and show you how I did it. So the section is comprised of these different instruments here. We have group strings, which is just like a wash. Then we have the cellos. I think there's 3 in this library. Then violas. Violas are great. People don't generally use them. They're underrated, but they're really, really nice. And then we have the viola lead. We also have a violin string section as well. So I'll play them individually and you can hear what they're doing. And then we have the cello. And then we have the violas. And thing to note about violas, as far as I'm aware, it's exactly the same tuning as a cello, but it's an octave up. So when I tend to put the two together, I'll voice the violas maybe a second or a fourth or a fifth above the cellos. So if I play them together, you can hear what they're doing. So they're playing the same line, but the cellos are a fourth above in this case. And then if we add the violins in, so the violins are creating a counter melody over the top of the cellos and the violas. And if we add them all together, so the last thing I want to cover is control surfaces. So there are so many different controls, as I said, for these libraries: expression, vibrato, modulation, and volume, and everything else. So I highly recommend something like this little guy. So I have volume on there. When I move that, it moves everything on there for me. And then I've got expression and vibrato. So you can easily dial these in while you're playing, or you can put them in after you've recorded the sounds. But they're inexpensive, well worth having. That's the way you're going to get some real strings. Just playing the notes on their own will sound kind of like strings, but you really have to give it that human touch and use these sliders to really mess about with the sounds and get it just right. Well, I hope that gave you a little insight into how I arrange my strings and the plugins I use and the way I go about it. If you've got any questions or advice, because I'm no expert, in the comments below. Okay, cheers guys. See you soon.